Well, good afternoon, my dear friends. This is Dr. Bettinghouse. I am so excited today to have the opportunity and the joy to be interviewing Dr. Carolyn Trasko, and she's frequently known as to her clients as Dr. Carolyn. She has got a huge resume. She graduated from Saybrook University with a doctorate in mind body medicine and has had her own practice for 20 years. She's also the founder of Empowered Wellness. She's located in the beautiful state of Delaware, and she also has a lot of online visits with her clients. In 2021, she augmented her integrative mental health toolbox by becoming a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. And I think that's very important because that means that she can work with a lot of people who are not living nearby in Delaware. She adds this to her over 30 years of specialized training in trauma, addictions, integrative health, energy medicine healing, Ayurvedic medicine, and traditional Chinese medicine. She has used her educational, clinical, and lived experiences to create a holistic model of care that honors the whole person, mind, body, brain, and spirit. Dr. Carolyn is on a mission to help more people experience transformational healing. She feels blessed to help men and women heal their unresolved emotional traumas, allowing them to improve their ability to cope and to boost their immune system. So let's welcome this beautiful woman. Hello, Dr. Carolyn.
Hi. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. And again, wanting to thank you now that we're actually doing this for inviting me to be able to talk to you about the things I'm passionate about and to share it with your audience in any way, shape, or form that might be able to help people. So thank you for this.
Well, I've been looking forward to it for months now, and we finally found the right time, and
Yes.
today is the right time. So, uh, why don't you just start by telling us how you got started in this wonderful, passionate profession that you're in?
Well, I would say it started probably about 30 plus years ago. I decided that I wanted to be able to go to school for clinical social work, and there were a lot of things about the social work philosophy that really resonated with me: community, service, leadership, and I ended up getting all kinds of training, a master's degree in social work, and then I decided I wanted to really be able to understand different populations I was going to be working with. And I didn't specifically early in my career identify if I wanted to work solely with children or adults. So I actually worked
Mhm.
with both. And I feel that has led me to even really the practitioner that I am at this very moment. I
Yeah.
completely feel all of my own lived experiences, including my own early childhood experiences, plus, formal education and just really the informal education that we get has shaped this for me. And I would say it has honestly been all of the trauma survivors that I ever worked with from the early beginnings of my career 30 plus years ago. I've always been curious. That's my mind. I always start to see patterns for people and I want to know, what's up with that? And might I, as a practitioner at whatever level I was at the time, be able to find new, better, more effective ways to help them with whatever they were struggling with? And it's the trauma population that it kept inspiring me to push past my own comfort zone all the time because I watched, well, they allowed me to work with them and witness their pain, and they had the courage to do the work and
Mhm.
also to be vulnerable, that I thought, well, if they can do that, then I can also have the courage and be vulnerable to get either additional training or push myself past where my initial training 30 plus years ago. So I have to say, I absolutely love the fact that I graduated from UConn with my master's degree in social work, and I'm proud of that. But I know that 30 plus years ago when I graduated, we were not talking about the body in trauma work.
Yeah.
And so then I took it upon myself. I got additional training, and people have said to me, it's important for you to share in your story that I've had the blessing to be trained by some of really what I consider the true gurus in trauma, like Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, Dr. Stephen Porges. These are people that have written the books, and I took it upon myself to find them. So Dr. van der Kolk always hosted the International Trauma Conference in Boston every year, and I lived in Connecticut until 2018 when I moved here to Delaware. And so I would travel to Boston every year and I would take part in this week-long conference that he would pull together really the best and brightest of the people in the world, truly cutting edge practitioners. And I just got more and more inspired, more energetically fueled to do this. And it led to me sitting in a conference in Boston, being trained by two amazing Dr. Janina Fisher and even Dr. Pat Ogden. And they talked about the vagus nerve. And at that point, and I mean, I'm going back now probably 18 years, I had never heard of the vagus nerve, didn't know what it was. I had what I call really an awakening. I remember sitting in this room with 200 people and thinking, whoa, I feel like I've just heard the answer to something and I don't know the question yet. So I contacted my best friend at home on the break and I'm like, oh my God, I need to remember, I need to mark this moment, help me to remember this. And so fast forward a few years later, when Dr. Porges was teaching polyvagal theory, I went and trained with him for a full week. He's so amazing, so humble, brilliant. And I thought, this is it. This is how I can learn to help people heal from trauma on a level that talk therapy is not always effective at doing. And that continued me on my journey to find other body techniques that you don't learn in clinical school on how to help people. So if you go to the year 2013, I decided after 20 something years in a clinical practice, had my own successful private practice, did not need to get a doctorate at my age. I say to people, I was compelled from my soul to do it. And I found Saybrook University. And it was such the right fit for me because I am the first cohort of their integrative medicine college. And so my doctorate, like you had said, is in mind body medicine with a specialization in integrative mental health. And so the me I am, I really always honor every trauma survivor that I've ever worked with in the 30 plus years, that including presently, that I have the blessing, whether there had been children, adolescents, or adults, or even geriatric adults. Age does not matter to me in this work. I have the blessing to have clinical experience working with people as young as 1 month old, as well as all the way to the phase of their life where they passed and they crossed over. So I think that's what keeps me going. That's even like some of the ways that we have interacted with one another. I mean, I keep telling myself, what am I doing? Why do I want to challenge myself in this way? But every time I have an opportunity to sit with people and share this work and help them tap into the wisdom that exists within them and heal things. And I always say to people, healing's different than curing, right?
Yes.
So but healing matters. And so my journey has led me to these very moments, and I'm always open to wherever it will lead, because I know as humans we continue to evolve. And I love that, being an early pioneer of integrative mental health, I know this field is going to continue to evolve. So I want to do like my small part to do that.
Wow, that is so fantastic. The Yeah, there's so many places I'd like to jump in, but I think one thing that I'm becoming more aware of as I get a wee bit older, I don't really age, but the years kind of tick by, is
Yeah.
the amount of intuition that one gathers by working with a wide variety of people.
Yes.
Starting with my work in pediatrics,
Mm-hmm.
I wish I knew then what I know now.
I hear you.
I could have helped many more children with the trauma that they were experiencing in their dysfunctional families. But anyway, we are where we are. So I let's see what right now is the most, I guess I would say, the most effective approach you have with a new client. I know people come in with a wide variety of symptoms or issues, but uh, can you speak to that?
Sure. I know that, like, what I would say in traditional mental health, right, which is exactly where I started in the field of traditional mental health that many years ago, people would have come to me with an expectation of talk therapy to help them with anxiety or depression, life transitions, maybe even trauma. So as I became more known for this, so after having 30 plus years of trauma experience, you then find more people will find you that are looking for help with their trauma. And for me, I look at it as knowledge is power. So my first piece, no matter the reason why the client is coming, nor the age, by the way, it's always about empowering them with knowledge to increase their self awareness.
Mhm.
And so I explain things in a lot of metaphors. So it's either like we know when we're meeting someone for the first time, whether it's in our personal life or in our professional life with our clients, it's literally we're only touching like about a tip of an iceberg, right?
Yeah.
But we know about the metaphor of iceberg, the largest part is the part that's hidden under the actual water. And so, what I teach people is that the same is true about what you understand about yourself. People have varying levels of self awareness and therefore self understanding. And what I find is that a big piece of this with everyone is education.
Yeah.
Educating them, though, how it relates to their individual life experience. So there is a mindset component to the work. So my model is literally mind, body, brain, and spirit. And
Mhm.
I say to my clients, what that means is I do what I can to the best of my ability to show up in each of those realms myself as a person, as a practitioner on any given day. So I try to practice living this medicine. The end goal, I would say, if I would use it as an end goal for clients, no matter why they're coming in, is that you not only have increased self awareness and self understanding, but that you are able to experience levels of self love, self compassion, self forgiveness, which is a big trigger for people. Shame, blame, huge triggers for people in their mental health and their physical illness, and like we know, dis-ease on the wellness continuum. Um, and also self-acceptance. So if they can work with me to develop a daily self-care plan that has some components of mind, body, brain, and spirit, and they get to choose the tools. Then they are able to feel more empowered, more successful in their life. Many of my clients, understandably, not only have had decreased anxiety and depression, but also found, and this isn't an accident in mind body medicine, that some of their physical symptoms actually improve too, because many people don't understand the link not only from mental health and physical health, but then I'm sure we could probably talk too about the connection between gut health, brain health, and mental health too. Like there are so many places where I have the joy of being able to help bring a person along their life journey.
So yeah, and having someone like you as a part of a healing team, I
Hmm.
think is crucial. Uh, I have I do the best I can with
Hmm.
people when I know a lot of their issues are at the mental emotional level
Absolutely.
from whatever trauma they've experienced.
Hmm.
I do the best I can, but sometimes having somebody like you to
Hmm.
come in and just kind of lift up the whole platform or
Hmm.
the healing platform can be so vital. So
Hmm.
we're kind of bouncing around a bit, but I do want to bring this up because you are nationally certified as
Hmm.
a health and wellness coach. You can
Correct.
you can work with anybody in these United States. Is that
That
correct?
that is true. And I will say, every person on a individual, personal, as well as professional level, no matter where we were, was impacted by COVID, right?
Yeah.
And what I always say to people from that traditional Chinese medicine, yin and yang, let's acknowledge the negative impact of these life experiences, but let's practice what we call landing on the positive effect of negative things, or negative things happening that had such impact. I feel that what COVID did, one of the things it did for me professionally, it completely pushed me to be able to have the infrastructure for my practice to have online work. And most people prior to COVID, like unless you were a business professional, you didn't really use Zoom, right? Or maybe you use Facebook Live a little bit. But I was committed to the privacy factor, that HIPAA compliant factor. So I ended up making sure I invested in a platform that allows me to do that. And what I love is in even the like health coaching field, lots of health coaches, they've been working for years by phone, and that's very effective. They're not always able to be in the same literal neighborhood as their clients. But I do find, as I'm sure you do too, when we can see each other,
Yeah.
it is much more helpful. And in my work, for example, when I explain that I'm present on mind, body, brain, spirit level, when I'm meeting with a client, I'm telling them out loud, I use my own body as a tuning fork because I'm also nationally certified as a healing touch practitioner, which is such graceful, in my opinion, energy healing medicine as well. That's a piece of my toolkit too. And to be able to have this ability to create a space that has additional senses like sight, not
Yeah.
just sound,
Yeah.
I think is really, it deepens the healing opportunities for people.
I agree. And, even though we can't touch each other
Hmm.
physically, we can still touch each other energetically because our thoughts, our emotions are
Hmm.
broadcast very widely. And God
Yes.
only knows how Zoom came up with this phenomena. But I'm grateful to use Zoom
Yeah.
because I do a lot of follow-up visits with my patients online. It's more
Hmm.
convenient for them,
Absolutely.
and it's actually more convenient for me too. But
Hmm.
there's times, of course, I am locked in by my medical license. I have to have somebody who lives in Colorado who can
Right.
actually come to the office for that first visit. But after that, we can do the Zooms. But we've talked about this before. I'm very interested in getting you a little bit more engaged in Healing Unleashed as
Hmm.
as it seems to benefit all of us. So
Sure.
um, now, I think, what else do I want to ask you? Do you have, considering privacy,
Hmm.
uh, a situation? I hate to use the word case, but a
Hmm.
patient that you've worked with,
Sure.
and what you were able to accomplish with that person without saying anything that would identify this person.
Sure. So let me think about that for a minute, because sometimes what I often do is I purposefully, to help protect people's confidentiality, might take pieces of a few different
Yeah.
people and create that as, like we're saying, a clinical case in my mind. But because I am an energy medicine person, it's kind of like, well, did someone's face pop up in my mind? And if that person's face did, then I feel this is where, in other world medicine, let me just pause for a second before I go to the case, to give you a little bit of context. In traditional Chinese medicine, in Ayurvedic medicine, which is East Indian medicine, plus I also have an affinity and a love of Native American medicine or indigenous culture medicine. All three of those are world medicines where they never separated out spirit or mind and body.
Yeah.
So their medical models are mind, body, spirit.
Yeah.
And trying to live that medicine to the best of my ability. Like I say to people, I'm a truly integrative practitioner. I believe in Western medicine, Western allopathic medicine, but I also feel as a practitioner, I'm a bridge between Western medicine and other world medicine. So that being said, when someone's face or name pops up into my head, like she did, when you asked me this, I thought, okay, that means right now it is time for me to share a bit of her story with you and your audience. She is a 62-year-old woman who had come to me because she was dealing with depression and anxiety.
Mm.
As I got to know her a little bit, which is not uncommon in my work. It is sort of like we say, like the layers of the onion, right? Or a flour. Like you peel one layer and then we go. It's a process, a graceful process. Because what we're doing is helping the person not only get comfortable to form a relationship with me, but we're talking about a relationship on a mind, body, brain, spirit level. So that's what my trauma survivor clients really taught me in working with them, that there's a deep level of vulnerability that if you really aren't the kind of practitioner who feels comfortable holding a safe container and space for that, then it is important for you as a professional to get additional training or refer elsewhere, because I look at what I do literally as sacred work. It's
Yes.
a blessing. I don't know. I always say, I don't know how I was chosen for this. It's bigger than me, but I always want to honor it with grace every moment to the best of my ability. And so the 62-year-old woman, married, had 2 children, and was suffering from anxiety and depression. Well, as she shared with me, maybe 3 sessions in, she also was dealing with stage 4 lung cancer. So that's why I say to people, I work with people that have life-altering medical diagnoses. So, and we all know in alternative and complementary medicine, it really was the oncology, the cancer patients that were courageous to say, I want to try something beyond what my traditional medicine can offer. And so as she shared with me some of the things she was struggling with there, I helped her to understand, for instance, from a traditional Chinese medicine standpoint, the lungs are the organ where we hold grief.
Oh, yes.
So then that allowed us to open up another layer. And where that led was to really her own awakening at her age, that she was a survivor of significant early childhood trauma, that like most adults that have lived past it, if they consciously remember it, they'll do this. They'll use a hand movement. They'll say, that was a long time ago. I got past that. And I'll say, okay, but since too many people use that same body movement, I'm a person who notices patterns, and I'm like, let's just check in, because really your body's talking to me and saying, can you just be aware that we haven't really gotten rid of it? We just pushed it over here.
Yeah.
So it affects everything on a subconscious level because it's over here.
Yeah.
And so once we were able to heal some of that, she then even went deeper into getting to know what I call your authentic self. Your authentic self is not the part of you that survived traumas. Your authentic self is the part of you that at your essence had the energy, the molecular makeup of who you were maybe ultimately destined to become. But then on this earthly plane, trauma happened and it derailed you a bit, even if you didn't know it. So as she did a deeper dive, she was able to really open up about how unhappy and unhealthy her marriage of 35 years had been and was. So she chose to empower herself through her authentic self. She started to advocate for herself, volunteering in a medical task force with medical doctors. And like she said, she never had the courage to have a voice in her life. And in Ayurvedic medicine, what we realize is that trauma survivors often struggle with blockages in the 2 lower chakras, root and sacral. The root is actually that area physically on our body, kind of mapped around in between our thighs. The sacral is the area in the abdomen. So think about the physical body like you do with what you do with your patients. When people have medical diagnoses and or symptoms in those areas of their body, specifically what I notice in the abdomen, because all of our sex organs are there, right? It's likely that they have had difficulty being seen, felt, and heard in their childhood. And then they've grown up to be people that have difficulty having a voice, which we know in Ayurveda is the 5th chakra. So her healing helped her to advocate for herself differently with her traditional oncologist. And in fact, she ended up finding an integrative oncologist, which I thought was just beautiful.
Yeah.
She decided to take part to volunteer on a task force where she was able to share her experience with traditional chemotherapy, knowing what she's struggling with stage 4 lung cancer, and wanting people to understand that integrative medicine is real and it's her story, right? And then she went even further. She made a very hard decision at the age of her life that she was going to leave the person she had been married to. And she
Mm.
was going to empower herself to heal even her relationships. And so she, in addition, she decided to go back to school to get additional training. And I forget what her field of passion was, but she was, when we, parted ways, because she felt, you've brought me to this place in my journey and I feel good about it. She had just signed a lease for a townhouse for her to live in. And she was in the process of working on starting her own business in the area of her specialty that she decided to get trained in. And I say to people, that's why age to me is a number. If I would have had it in my mindset as a practitioner, well, she's 62 years old. Wow, she's been married this long. Wow, she has stage 4 lung cancer, right? If I didn't continue to deeply believe in my soul and the resiliency of the human spirit that goes beyond what my left brain logic can fathom, I don't know that I could continue to do the work I do. And I also think even if I did do it, I might not be very effective.
Wow, that story is amazing. And I bet we don't know what happened, but I bet she finally lived her life, whether it was for a year or 2 years or 6 months.
Absolutely. And that's what she said to me. She said, I feel like what you've done is you have helped me to not only understand myself, because she was having certainly a number of mental health clinical symptoms. In addition to anxiety and depression, what I see with a lot of people is they have mind-body disconnect, which that means a lot of things. That means
Yeah.
clinically, they're engaging in some level of dissociation, which is the
Mhm.
brain's ability to check out. It's what we all do on some level when we space out. But for trauma survivors, dissociation becomes more than a survival strategy. It can become a lifestyle for people. It's literally where the thinking head cannot feel the experiences very well of the body. And that leads to all kinds of difficulty, of course, for
Yeah,
people. So she said, I feel like I feel like I'm empowered to live my life now. And I think, well, that is just
that's
wonderful. And so that's why I always say to all my clients, I'm like, look, even when, we part ways in the way that we're meant to, I'm always cheering for you wherever you may be, because we each grow in the experience. That's the other part of it too. I am aware that I can have this conversation with you today because of those lived experiences with other people that they keep pushing me. Like I carry their spirits with me and say,
mhm.
no, I get it. And when I did my doctoral research, that was very much true, because the lovely women that were willing to volunteer that had some level of thyroid disease, what I learned is, understandably, but it was, I'll admit, I was shocked. None of them truly understood their thyroid condition, and traditional medicine,
Mhm.
sadly, had not explained it to them.
That's right.
And I wasn't okay with that. I didn't think I was going to find that, to be honest. I wasn't even looking for that in my research, but it's one of the things that came up, and I was like, okay, then I'm going to be that voice. I'm going to do my part to try to be that voice and educate people on, if you have, I learned 1 in 7 women will develop a thyroid condition in their lifetime. That was shocking to me. And I learned so many people, even myself, really are subclinical hypothyroidism, and you don't realize how it affects your mood and your metabolism and your gut health. So it's just all these pieces are, once we realize these things in our own life and as practitioners, it feels like a game changer.
Yeah, and the thyroid gland sits right there,
Right there.
which
Exactly.
it's interesting that so many women, more common than men,
Mhm.
have thyroid issues, and women have sort of lost their voice over the generations, even though now we're beginning to find our voice. But I
Mhm.
wanted to make a comment about grief.
Mhm.
Uh, I think it was in 1996. I was working in a traditional pediatric practice,
Mhm.
and I was just beginning to evolve myself spiritually, and
Mhm.
I wanted to do more holistic type work. So I made a proposal to the pediatricians I was working with, so that, hey, let's bring a little bit more holism into our
Yes.
practice. Well, they did not like that.
I'm sure not.
They let me go, or in some
Oh.
people say fired. It's the only time in my whole life I've ever been fired. And what happened? Uh, I stayed on for about a month. They were kind enough to let me stay for a month. But then, right at Thanksgiving, that was my last day. A week later, I spiked a temp of 103. Didn't know what in the heck was going on with me, but I ended up with a pneumonia. And
Wow.
I knew at the time that it was that my body was responding to held grief.
Absolutely.
And that's, it's like, I'm like you. I'm always thinking metaphorically or
Mhm.
spiritually. What
Mhm.
does this COVID thing, what has it done? It attacked the lungs.
Yes.
And because I think that we have a worldwide grief,
Yes.
we the world is rapidly evolving. Hopefully,
Mhm.
hopefully we'll get past the grief into really living again. But we're
Yes.
all so connected, that
Yes.
what's happening with planet Earth and all the
Mhm.
creatures in planet Earth has is happening to us too.
Agreed.
So that's why this work is so important, Carolyn.
Mhm.
Okay. And I am absolutely beyond gratitude that you're willing to come here and speak. I could listen to you all day. We connected in a very interesting way, didn't we? I'll
Yes.
have to tell people how we connected.
Yes.
We connected through a marketing, and I'll give Uli
Mhm.
Iserlo a plug here. He
Yep.
is the owner of Big Boost Marketing, which is a phenomenal marketing company designed especially for holistic, integrative, functional medicine type practitioners like we are. And that's how we met. And I think we made a connection right in those little Zoom rooms
Agreed.
that,
Agreed.
and that's why I do what I do. I want people to realize that if we come together in a sense of community, that we facilitate each other's healing.
Absolutely. And it's healing for each of us too,
That's
right?
right. I
As
need it.
humans, it's right. Me too. That's what I say to people. I'm like, no, folks, I keep it real. I'll tell you on the days where I'm like, yeah, I need to put a little bit more work in my self care. Because my own feeling is that that's who I authentically am. So if I want to help people be their authentic self and heal, I feel completely obligated that I ought to be able to do the best I can myself. And on the days where I'm struggling, to say, yep, I'm struggling today too, and just be real. And I think what happens, and I'm sure to some degree in your traditional training, it might have been like this too. I know for me, 30 plus years ago, and like I said, love my alma mater, totally fabulous education that I knew I got to get me started. What I recognized is back then what was taught to us was what they believe was the best at the time,
Yeah.
which is, it's better for you as a mental health practitioner to be the blank slate, to be careful not to, and I understand, be careful not to project our biases onto other people. But I think to some degree, we run the risk as humans of going too far in the opposite direction, right?
I agree.
Because over the course of time, and it has been me developing the courage to lead more with what I call the woo woo that has changed everything. I had the blessing to meet a lot of body worker people in the path of my career, but I knew my left brain logic, like I wasn't comfortable with that. My journey, I needed to come at it. And I know mental health is the gray science, right? But I had to come at it from left brain logic, science. And now I look at myself and I'm like, well, of course I needed to do it that way. I needed to heal the parts of myself that were scared so that I could open up to what we know in energy medicine and other world medicines is what we call divine feminine energy. And I say to
Yeah.
people, we all have
Very
divine feminine energy. It doesn't
best.
matter your biological gender or the gender you identify with.
That's
And
exactly right.
and
Yeah.
it's about helping people open up to that in ways that are comfortable for them. And so even in some of the things, I've been running like a monthly membership for my clients where I meet via Zoom. And in my little trainings, I've started to also teach them a little bit of the lunar cycles and understanding if you are someone who is more affected by the cycles of the moon, it would probably be important for you to know that and not think you're crazy.
Yeah.
But then to tie it into, well, how can we use, even with the lunar cycle, how can we use maybe traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic medicine or both, or really from the allopathic standpoint, I teach it to people from the lifestyle medicine model because I'm all about self care.
Yeah.
People come to me and they're like, oh my God, there's so much information available on the internet, right? They're bombarded with knowledge, overwhelmed, but actually figuring out how to decipher that knowledge and implement it and use it in their life is where people really struggle. And so I've figured out, oh, right, that's where I can come in. I can help there.
Mhm.
I can actually do that.
Yeah. We all need a coach. And
Yeah.
we can have we have an inner coach also that we need to learn to empower and strengthen. But
Hmm.
boy, it can be awful. And what I'm seeing right now, I think people are lonely.
Yes.
They're scared.
Yes.
Um, I I think I mentioned this last year that we're a lot of people going through what I call languishing.
Hmm.
You're not quite depressed, but you're not quite filled with joy, and you
Right.
don't know what to do next. And I do hope that the people who may be joining us live right now uh, are really tuned in to the fact that we truly are all in this together, and we can help one another, and we can
Yes.
stop the foolishness that where we're blaming everybody or judging everybody or
Yes.
shutting people out of our life. And I let me see, I don't know, are there any comments, Tom, or any questions now?
Mm.
I can never see them. Tom is my guide, my night exemplar. Tom, are you there? Hello. Yeah, I know. This is so much fun.
It is. It is. And again, I think when we as people, not just practitioners, but we're people first, right? That's what I say to people. We're people
I'm real.
first. Yeah. That when we can make a connection, it uplifts us, it inspires us, and that energy is real. That decreases our own stress response. It helps give our immune systems a little boost. And I mean, let's face it, whether you ever were thinking about your immune system or not, COVID hit the planet and now
Yep.
everybody's talking about immune system.
Yep.
So I think, okay, well, what if we could boost our immune system just by doing 5 or 10 minutes of meditation in a day, or belly breathing, or even guided imagery or movement, or talking to a friend, or doing an act of kindness, because we can actually change our wiring, which is
Yeah.
what I love. I love that we have the ability as humans, right, as these higher order mammals that we are, to rewire our own brain with neuroplasticity. I'm like, this is like my geek out zone. I love it.
I know we have the most amazing instrument through
Hmm.
which we can express life itself.
Hmm.
That, as I tell my patients, I think we should all be in such reverence for who we
Hmm.
are
Yes.
that every time we start down the path of negativity, negative thinking, blaming, screaming at each other, that every time we start doing things that are going to be harmful to our body, that
Hmm.
something rings inside and says, oh, wait, there's a
Right.
sacredness in me. that I
Yes.
cannot destroy or profane. So,
Right. No
yeah,
matter how hard we end up self-sabotaging ourselves, right?
absolutely.
Some
So,
people are masters at it. And I usually say to them, well, if we can heal those deeper trauma wounds of shame, blame, of not feeling worthy, you can really change your self-sabotage cycle. It's true. And I think, you know, I'm a firm believer that all the roads lead to Rome. And I think that's why I love the fact that we've made a connection and that we understand the beauty of collaboration because
mm,
I say to my clients, I'm making suggestions to you, offerings, right? Not prescriptions, but offerings for different mind body techniques that you can learn about and you can practice. And I'll even lead you in some of them if that will make you feel more comfortable. But ultimately, the choice is for the individual because we all have a specific vibrational signature from vibrational medicine. Like everything can be measured. And that vibrational signature, different things will resonate for different people. So I say to
absolutely.
people, I don't know what will be right for you. You know, that's not for me to, you don't even, because I believe so much in empowerment, you don't want to give me that power. And if you try to, I'll say to you, that is not mine. I'll only suggest the things like, here are some things I've tried or things other clients have tried. And so I find, you know, it just depends on those pillars of lifestyle medicine. Where is a person entering this part of their life path?
Right.
So if they're entering it from a place of knowing they have an incredible amount of stress and they're like, "Oh, I definitely need help with my stress management," then I'll work with them on the techniques that really help with stress management, which have to do with not only mindset work, what's going on in your negative self-talk head, right? Do you have a people pleaser part, a self-critic part? But then also on the stress level, getting them to understand the mechanisms of their body. But because I'm also doing the brain part of the model, I actually teach my clients a little bit about neurobiology and neuroanatomy so that they can understand how they got to where they are today,
Yeah,
you
and
know?
that, yeah, we do a lot of brain health stuff here too.
Yes.
You know what I'm discovering, Carolyn, is that we could be here all day. I love it. I'm going, Tom has put up here how people can get in touch with you.
Oh,
So,
okay, great.
so this is your website, empoweredwellnesscoaching.com.
Correct.
So this will stay on the comments. And then if people want to just reach out to you, your
Mhm.
email address is drcarolyntrasko@gmail.com.
So I just noticed he just transposed when he typed it in the L and the Y. And what is hilarious is years ago, when I ordered business cards where I used to live, they did the same exact thing. So it's Carolyn.
Thomas, correct. Do your spell check. Fix it.
Well, I'm telling you, it's something that, and it's those two letters for some reason. It just happens.
Okay, wait. Here it is.
Yay. Thank you,
Carolyn.
Tom.
Okay, and here, if somebody wants to call you, I
They can
guess
call
they
me.
can call you too.
They can, and they can text to that number as well. And as long as any of the ways they reach me, they're letting me know a good way to reach them, to get in touch with them, I will be more than happy. I know if people want to go to my website, they can just even self schedule their own. I offer everyone like a free 20-minute, I call it a discovery consultation call
Yeah.
right now. And I know a number of like functional and integrative medicine practitioners do that, which I think is important because so many people don't know what integrative mental health is, and I want to give them an opportunity to talk to me first for that free consult, so they can just self schedule that in my calendar that they have access to on my website too.
Yeah, and that's important. People, when we, in the past, when you decide to go, you need to go see a doctor, you don't pick up the phone and say, could I have a introductory call?
Right.
The only
Right.
time that was different is as a pediatrician, I would do complimentary prenatal visits with
Hmm.
couples who wanted to find a pediatrician that they
Sure.
resonated with. That was
Right.
great. So I
Yeah.
love doing discovery calls because,
Hmm.
we can't help everybody and not
No.
everybody is going to resonate or they're not ready.
Correct.
They say,
I mean, because you're right. That's the other piece of the work. I look at it as I serve as that guide, that mentor along their life journey, but also their accountability partner. So
absolutely, and people aren't ready, and that's okay.
it is.
Maybe that call is the beginning of them starting to think again and get ready for really changing their life. So,
Well, and
um,
I think, that's just to close, there's something in it in the addiction field called like the 41st messenger story. So I may botch it a little bit, but the way I always remembered it is this, is that as humans, it takes us on average 41 times to hear the same message before we heed that message. So once I heard that story almost 30 years ago, it stuck with me. And I thought, well, as long as I'm one of the 41, it's a blessing. Of course, you want to be the 41st, right? Because that's when the balloons fall out of the ceiling and his trumpet's blaring. But if you understand the value of being any number along their journey to get them to 41, that allows you to continue to do this work, I think. And it keeps me, inspired and humble along the path. So, yeah.
yeah, and what I tell my patients, if I can see you reach down and touch your holy purpose for being here on this planet, then I feel like I have done my job.
Oh,
And to
I
be
love it.
able to see that sparkle in their eyes. And,
Yes.
it doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it's such a gift. So,
Oh, it is. Oh,
yeah. All right,
oh,
my dear. Sending love and blessings to Delaware.
yeah. Back to you
And
too.
we will meet again soon, I'm
Hmm.
sure. But thank you so much for being here. And goodbye.
All right. Thank